So I've been in a mood to talk about Trails in the Sky FC lately, and how much I enjoyed it as just a standalone game. I know it's often referred to as just the slow setup that we need to get through in order to reach the incredible payoffs in Sky SC, and while that's not technically wrong, I personally disagree with this notion that FC is just a prologue, or something that we have to slog through to get to the actually great stuff. So in this video, I'm just gonna talk about the main reasons why I loved Sky FC as just its own experience. And just a heads up, there will be major spoilers for the entire Sky trilogy in this, so consider this your warning. So the first thing I want to praise this game for is the sheer emphasis placed on rounding out its setting, something we know is carried out in all the subsequent games released and is what sets the Trails series apart from all the other competition. Sky FC meticulously introduces the player to each region of Liberl, and both the main story quests and the side quests work in tandem to develop the world building of the Zemurian continent. But in the end, the direct setting is still confined to just the single nation of Liberl. Other series would have us visit various countries in just a single game, but Sky FC sticks to just a single nation and is able to go so much more in depth because of it. Visiting so many people, aka NPCs, and locations in Liberl alone gave us a reason to be invested in the kingdom's well-being during the climax of Chapter 4, during the attempted coup. By this point, we've experienced the entirety of the country, both the good and the bad, and have gotten to know all these people through the eyes of young Estelle and Joshua. We met people in the cities, as well as out in the rural country. We became familiar with high-ranking individuals in the kingdom, as well as the most common of civilians. We explored the terrain and became familiar with the monsters so we'd know exactly where to go and how to fight when the need arises later on during Sky SC. And I know other JRPGs have NPCs too, but it's just that the sheer amount of time we spend with the ones in Trails adds to greater character depth. Basically like how you would get to know someone better in real life by spending more time with them. And it's not just the main story NPCs that add to our experience, but also the various optional NPCs just living their own lives. Sky FC has set the standard for just the sheer number and quality of every named NPC, and there's like hundreds of them, that exists in each city or town. Like, no other series updates their NPC dialogue in such detail or frequency quite like Kiseki does. And that's exactly what makes the entire world of Zemuria feel so alive. Just knowing that there are entire communities of people just going about, living their own individual lives. Sometimes they're really affected by what's going on in the main plot, while other times it's regardless of what's happening in Estelle and Joshua's journey. Which, speaking of Sky FC's main plot, I actually loved how grounded the planned coup all was, especially when compared to the story routes of other popular JRPGs released around this time. And look, I love the Persona and Fire Emblem games myself, you know me. But there's only so much of the whole, oh damn, we've gotta slay a malevolent god again plot I can take before it starts getting stale. In contrast, Sky FC's final big bad is just a regular human being. Or well, you know, even if he's still plenty strong, he's normal in JRPG terms. And like, there's no transformation or fusion with a divine being that happens. That only comes once we reach SC. And yeah, I know the Archaism is technically the final boss, but the entire plot up to that point was building towards the inevitable face-off with Colonel Richard and his supporters. And speaking of which, I loved how the Colonel's motivation was rooted in a more grounded perspective. one that mirrors the very real struggle many smaller nations face in our world today. And overall, I just like how this first Sky game sets the example for the following Trails arcs, what with the first games in Crossbell and Erebonia dedicating a significant amount of time to developing the connection the player has to the people of these locations. Now, the next thing I really loved about this game was its slower pace in general, or more like its straight up slice of life feel that takes up more than half the game. I know FC is usually criticized for its slow pace, and I can understand that sentiment, but it just hit the right nostalgic vibe for me during a particularly difficult time in my life. The graphics, sprites, and OSTs just gave me the old school Harvest Moon, now known as Story of Seasons by the way, vibes. I also got the old 2D MMO vibes, which particularly hit me with the nostalgia feels since pretty much all of them have officially shut down. I used to be really into Trickster Online during my summer break and winter holidays growing up, and the whole aesthetic of Sky FC brought me back to those fond memories with my guildmates. Adding on to that slower pace, I believe FC is one of those few JRPGs that allow its young protagonists to just be kids. Like, for example, one particular highlight in the game for me was the entire Genis Royal Academy Festival arc. It was where the young Estelle and Joshua were able to experience time off from their bracers and training work and were able to focus on enjoying a normal school life. Seeing them interact with Chloe's friends and help out with the school play was definitely as slice of life-ish as things can get, and is obviously not everyone's taste. But for me, these slower moments work so well because Sky FC is Estelle and Joshua's journey. Like, yeah, I know we have recurring party members that come and go chapter by chapter, but the two who are always with us are Estelle and Joshua, and the two of them are just teenagers. So it's nice to see them enjoying their trip all around Liberl while leaving the larger plot mostly to the adults to deal with. And speaking of the adult party members and NPCs, this leads me to the final big reason I love Sky FC. And that's how story-wise, this game placed most of the big achievements on the adults in the room. In other words, it's not just a bunch of inexperienced high school-aged kids solving mysteries and taking on the enemy all by themselves. And don't get me wrong, I still love the Persona series and the Cold Steel arc, but sometimes I need a break from teens saving the world. In Sky FC, we had senior bracers, Shara and Agate showing us the ropes during the first couple chapters. And the big arrest of Mayor Dalmor was ultimately thanks to Julia and the Royal Army. And then our victory in the martial arts tournament in Chapter 4 was really only possible thanks to Zin and Olivier's help. And yeah, there are still times when Estelle and Joshua do amazing things to help investigate the larger conspiracy, but those moments feel truly earned. So yeah, this was kinda just a short personal list of the things I loved most about Sky FC. The cliffhanger aside, I think it very much holds up as a standalone game, but now I'd like to hear what you guys think. Did you love Sky FC, or are there things you wish weren't in there? And if you love chatting about all this trail stuff in general, join the Discord. You can also connect with me on Twitter and on Twitch. I stream about 3 to 4 times a week. And finally, I'd like to thank all my patrons, especially Jared Brelland, Andreas Hansen, Captain Hobo, NT Luck, and Big Clingy for all their support. So yeah, give a like and subscribe, or do neither. I'm just really glad you're watching, and until next time guys, take care. See ya!